The league season is now underway. You've had time to reflect on last Sunday's game against Barrytown United, taking the lead, being pegged back, penalty saved, two very late goals for the visitors. What are your thoughts overall, Andy, as you do look back and reflect?
Well, I don't think my thoughts have changed too much since the end of the game, to be perfectly honest. I was really pleased with elements of the performance. I was pleased with the way we started. You can clearly see some of the things in the game that we've been working on during pre-season, which is always satisfying, I guess. I went away really disappointed in the end that the players didn't get their just rewards. I thought we were good value for at least a point. I think what the game has shown once again is that there is very little between a lot of the sides in this league, and it comes down to, on the day, those marginal moments. And unfortunately for us, we couldn't push those marginal moments in our favour on Sunday, and in opposite to that, they went against us. So we were rather unfortunate in the end, I think, to walk away on the losing side. But in analysing the different phases of the game, I think the one phase where we didn't get the upper hand was in the final third, in those finalisation moments, getting in behind them and creating opportunities and making the goalkeeper work. And I think in reverse, they did that to us. They got behind us, they created far more clear-cut chances than we did. And I think, with that laid in front of us, then we can have no complaints that at the end of the day Barrytown won that game and we didn't.
And following the final whistle, you go into the dressing room with the girls. What was their overriding emotion?
Well, I think it's like any defeat really. The immediate emotion is one of disappointment. I think particularly in the manner of the game, as you've said, the fact that we took the lead, we had a penalty to regain the lead, and we've conceded 2 goals in injury time, having done really well. So that's understandable. Obviously, as the manager, your responsibility is to try and sift and filter out all of the positives from that, and to say, let's not be too despondent. Let's take the positives of X, Y and Z, and let's prepare ourselves moving forward. I think the lesson from last season is very much that we know that we can do that. Each game is a learning moment for us still, and we have to take those lessons from the game, find some solutions to them, and see how we get on this week in the next game.
And naturally, Andy, you want to win every game, but there are certain teams in the league that perhaps are stronger than others. Would it be true to say that you would identify Pontypridd as perhaps one of those games that you could get something from this weekend?
Well, I think recent history has told us that, as it did last weekend with the game against Barrytown. I think we were a victim of getting ahead of ourselves last weekend and thinking, that we'd really moved on and that we'd identified that as a game that really was more winnable than losable. And obviously in the event it wasn't a case of that. It was very much 50-50, and I think this will be the same this weekend. It'll be very much 50-50. There'll be ups and downs within the game, momentum shifts, etc., and it's about those key moments in the game. How do you manage those against you and repel them, and how do you create more of those in your favour? So I think there's an element of caution there in going in too optimistic, but as you say, the nature of the club, the nature of the brand TNS, the nature of football as it is, that, as you say, everybody wants to win every game. Of course, we'll be confident and we'll be ready for it, and if those moments are there, hopefully we'll accept them on the day.
And USW Sport Park was a happy hunting ground for the New Saints last season. Does that come into it this time round? Will you be using those stats from last season to perhaps motivate the girls ahead of the game on Sunday?
No, I don't think you need to do that as a coach. Obviously, those players that have played there before, they'll have good memories and sort of some capital to fall back on, which will help settle their nerves and get them in the groove, as it were, for that game. But we'll just enter that game as prepared as we can, as we normally do, with a structure around the day, the moment, and our approach and style to the game.
And obviously the preparations are not only on the pitch with training today, but also off it as well. Overall, at this stage of the week, how are things going?
Well, we had one training session yesterday. We're up for the second one this evening. Obviously the weather's a factor today because We've just had some sort of a storm, so we'll have to see how that affects things later today. But we're in good shape. You know, we were in good shape last week. We're in good shape this week. It's match day 2, and let's just be ready for that.
And we did talk about the new signings as well last press conference that we did. You've had a chance to see a little bit more of some of them in match action and also training as well. Happy with the signings that you've made, Andy?
Yeah, I think you have to go broader and deeper than that. Obviously, you know, we've been in conversation with 4 of these 5 players for a long time over the summer, and persuading them, if that's the right phrase, that this is the right moment and the right club to come and work with. Each of the 5 of them have got real top quality. You know, we talk about this split idea of the person and the player. They're all fantastic people. They're great company. They're great to be around, and they've added to our dressing room in that sense. Obviously, as the manager is putting a structure and a squad together, you're always looking to add quality. The 5 of them add quality. They add competition for places, which is really important for us. The trick now, I guess, or the challenge now, is gelling everybody together so that we've got these players on the same page as the existing players, and we understand our style and we understand each other's way of moving forward. Going deeper than that, obviously, as I've said before, gone on record as saying we're really pleased that the players that we had last year have recommitted to us again this year.
And based on current availability of players, do you know what particular approach you will take to the game this weekend?
Excuse me. Well, as I say, you know, we've got our style of play, we've got our way of thinking, the TNS way, if you like, and that's not going to change. You know, we're obviously trying to progress and consistently step up week on week with the standards, with the delivery, with the performance, with the elite behaviours, etc., etc. And that takes time. It showed last season how long it can take to turn a corner. We've made 5 new signings this year. It's going to take us a little time to bed them in and to continue to move on. So that's the current state of play.
Will there be many changes this weekend, or do you like to stay with a continuity of starting 11 as much as possible?
Well, it's not quite like ice hockey or basketball where it's 5 on and 5 off sort of thing, you know, so invariably when you're making changes, there's 1 or 2 changes, whether that's injury, illness, availability, etc., whether it's to do with tactics and team shape, one thing and another. I would imagine that there'll be 1 or 2 changes, but there won't be wholesale changes, no.
And finally, Andy, injuries, availability in general, what's the situation like?
Well, in terms of registration, there's 1 player that's not yet registered, so that obviously stymies us. In terms of the rest of the squad, we are carrying 1 or 2 injuries, so we'll have a 16-17 player squad to pick from this weekend. Going back to a question earlier around the squad size, the squad depth, we're really happy with the members that are in that squad now, and we know that whoever is called upon will come and they'll do their best and give their best efforts to put on a show and a performance and try and get the win, as we always do.